Hi, my name is Mary Sue Lynch with Lynch Training and Consulting. What I do in my job is help healthcare organizations with their staff training and their staff development and other human resource activities. And I'm here today to talk with you about your legal and ethical responsibilities as the caregiver. Most of us want to do the right thing whenever possible, and laws help to guide us, as do our personal ethics, what we know to be right and to be wrong. Nursing assistants have both legal and ethical responsibilities. You, as a nursing assistant, are responsible for knowing what your tasks are as a nursing assistant. Also, to know what your legal and ethical responsibilities to your resident or client are. In this lesson, what we'll do is we'll cover the rights of your patient and your legal and ethical responsibilities with regard to preserving your patient's rights. So first, let's talk about rights in healthcare. There are different categories of rights, so to speak. One of them is resident rights, and these are for residents of nursing homes. Resident rights are given to residents before their admission to nursing home. These rights are legislated through the Omnibus Reconciliation Act, OBRA, of 1987. A summary of some of the rights, and you've probably heard them before, is the right to be free from harm or abuse, the right to be free from physical or chemical restraints, the right to personal choice, the right to participate in group activities, the right to personal belongings, and the right to privacy for married couples. So these preserve the rights of someone that's living within a nursing home, and when someone comes into that nursing home, they will sign a form that they receive the document. This makes sure everybody knows what's to be expected and what they can expect. Patient Bill of Rights, in contrast, are basic rights given to people not only in nursing homes but in hospitals. And they include the right to be treated with respect, the right to full disclosure of information, so to know about their condition, to have the information that they need to have. The right to make decisions, to say yes or no, that's a basic human right. The right to appropriate care, and as I mentioned, the right to refuse care. That could be one of the decisions that's made. Client rights are a third type of rights that are specific to home care. So very similar, you may hear client rights talked about in terms of if you work in the home care environment. The rights, nonetheless, of all residents, patients, or clients, regardless of where they live, is that they have certain rights we are responsible as caregivers to uphold. They include, first of all, the right to be treated with dignity, respect, and recognition of one's individuality. The right to privacy with the provision of treatment of care or services in a private area. The right to participate in social, religious, and community activities. It's important to respect everyone's belief system. Fourth, confidentiality. Information about a client or resident that is put on a record is confidential and is privileged information, and they have a right to keep their business their business. The right to participate in planning for care and services. Residents and clients alike have that right. The right to refuse care and treatment. Patients do have the right, even when ordered by a physician, to refuse a care or to refuse a specific treatment. Finally, the right to voice and file their complaints or grievances. The resident has a right to communicate to an ombudsman outside the facility. That's a contact outside the facility that can help to resolve a complaint or grievance. In terms of preserving rights, there are some things that you can do as a caregiver to preserve a patient, resident, or client's rights. When entering a resident's room, you want to knock before entering. That would preserve their right to privacy. You want to pull the privacy curtain if necessary. You may want to ask them, would you like the curtain pulled? Closing the door might also be a way that you can preserve their rights. So when entering a room, think of those things. When taking part in a resident or patient's care, here are some things to keep in mind. Explaining the procedures. One way to preserve a patient or resident's rights is to explain them, even if you think they are having difficulty hearing you. Don't assume. It's their right to know. Another thing is to respond to their attempt to socialize with you or maybe with others. Here are some things you can do. Speaking in simple sentences. If they have difficulty hearing, speaking in simple sentences will make it easier for them to hear you. And if you're unsure of what to talk about, try everyday topics. The sports, the weather, what's going on in your area or in the facility in which you work. Third of all, something you can do when you're taking part in a resident or a patient's care is making sure that your resident or patient's body is properly covered at all times. The only exposure should be the area you are giving care to at the time. Consider how you'd feel. You'd want to be covered. So keep that in mind when you are providing care. Now, when you're in earshot of other residents, patients, or even family members, be careful not to speak of your personal plans or problems, to talk about other resident cares or functions, or about facility difficulties. If a patient is comatose or verbal or not verbal, keep this in mind as well. You still are in earshot of that patient or resident. So be conscious of how you talk, and don't talk as though they're not present. They may hear you. So respecting their rights, their dignity, by doing this, by being conscious of what you say and where you say it. Now, it's your legal responsibility to protect against abuse. So not only should you be preserving rights, but protecting the client on a day-to-day basis. Abuse may be consciously doled out or be unconsciously done. Either way, abuse is abuse. You need to know that. Neither conscious or unconscious abuse will be tolerated at your facility.